Jay Brown, welcome to CEO.com. CEO of Roc Nation.
Thank you for having me.
Legendary Jay Brown.
Legendary Josh James.
So you've, over the years, fostered a lot of careers of very successful artists. How do you identify these people in the first place? What do you look for?
I think the artists find us, and we find them. You know, we're all very fortunate. It just depends on, you know, we find some great artists, and some of them don't work out for us. And it could be us, it could be them, but we find a reasonable way to, you know, allow each other to go ahead and go our separate ways. And then we find some that actually, you know, work out.
Have you found anywhere when you first met them, you're like, oh, there's something here. There's a lot of something here.
But, I mean, that was when I first met Rihanna. I knew that she was special.
And she was young, right? She was still a teenager when you met her?
16.
16? Mm-hmm. And you could tell when she was 16, you're like, there's something here.
She was poised. You just knew it. Like, you just knew that she was there. As you grow and as you grow in age and you grow in wisdom and you learn a lot more starts to be released and you start opening up.
Was there a moment also in Jay-Z's career, you guys started working together fairly early on in his career, was there a moment when he was starting to blow up where you're like, oh, this is gonna be a big hit, this song's it, this might be our moment?
See, it was interesting because Jay never made records to say, I'm gonna make records for a hit. He was articulating what was going on and where he was from, what he did, and where he planned on going.
So he's always just been true to his story.
He's been true to his story, and because it was so real, and you actually knew that it wasn't like, you knew like, oh, this is true. Like, people didn't buy into it. People knew that it was part of them. It felt like it was part of their DNA, and that's how they were able to go ahead and move.
Yeah, one of my favorite books I've ever read was that book that Jay-Z put out about all of his lyrics and the backstories to each of those.
Yeah, the explanation is great, because actually later on, as you start listening to it, you go back and listen to it again, you're like, wow. Because some people take away from lyrics and you listen to it in a different way than what they actually meant. Yeah. It's like having you know, a Picasso.
Sure.
You know, everyone that sees it is going to see something different. You normally don't see the same thing.
Well, and generally the best artists are creating art because they're motivated to create that art. It speaks to them.
Correct.
And then they find others that it speaks to. What was the first big one for Jay-Z? Like, Big Pimpin', Can I Get a What?
No, I mean,
Hard Knock Life. Jay-Z
always made a body of work, so when he put out Reasonable Doubt, every song on there was big because it was basically the Bible to the neighborhood.
Okay.
It spoke to everything that was going on in that neighborhood. It gave people a voice to say, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. And then as you see, as he started learning more and started doing certain things and started traveling, he would start talking about that because he's bringing you on his journey.
Okay.
And he's saying, you know, I'm over here, and, you know, he was talking about being in Saint-Tropez, and he was basically painting a picture for you so you could see it because you couldn't be there. Similar like what we were talking about before. You know, you live in an area, you don't know if you're ever gonna leave.
Sure.
You
so
live
the Bible for the neighborhood, but then also a blueprint of...
A blueprint to let you know that I'm one of you, and I dreamed, and I was dreaming, and I'm still dreaming, but I'm actually living out my dreams. You can live out your dreams too.
Come on this path with me.
Yeah.
And I know your teams talked about how they use data, especially on that side, where sometimes you'll have athletes that'll ask about getting blown up more on social media, and we want more of a following, and you need to help us figure out how to manage that. And then I know your team was looking at data and found that when you want to get more social media following, this is a direct correlation between your performance on the field and your followers and how they're adding over time.
Yeah.
I think take that data and point, you guys share that kind of data with your artists, either on the musical side or with your athletes on the...
All the data is available, and I mean, what's interesting about what you do and what your company offers in the data is that you actually, just because somebody has a lot of followers doesn't mean they have a lot of conversion. Doesn't mean it converts into anything.
Right.
So you have to figure out what's wrong. Why is it not converting? What your data shows and it points out is when you're converting, when you're not. So are you wasting your time on doing these 20 things? You should be concentrating on this one thing. Mm-hmm. You have to take that and translate it into a real business. And if you show these people that, they'll be like, wow, but you physically need to show people. Some people are very tangible. They need to see things. Some people, you can just talk to people and say, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
But your data speaks for itself. It shows you everything you're doing wrong and everything you're doing right. And that's what they need.
Yeah, so tech definitely plays a part of your business, it sounds like, and certainly it's made a lot of shifts in entertainment over the years. How is it, or what do you think's next when it comes to tech and entertainment, music? What's the next shift?
I think in entertainment and music that it's first of all, it's already conformed to complete technology. I mean, we use streaming systems. You ask me what an album is, I'm like, oh man,
It's my life.
yeah, vinyl, everything.
Yeah.
We're bringing back vinyl, and people are like, this is retro.
Yeah.
These kids are like, I just stream what I want. They walk in your car, they Bluetooth their own music, or you take them to school, and you get to hear everything they have, and that's how they're playing their music. So technology is everything.
And then in terms of success, how do you measure that for yourself, and how do you measure that for the organization?
I'm always hard on myself when it comes to the success side, because I feel like once you start looking up and enjoying the moment is actually the day that you lost.
So that's cool, because that's not the way a lot of people would answer that question.
Yeah.
A lot of people talking about revenue this quarter, maybe revenue this year, maybe talking about a long-term plan, but it's always about dollars and profits. And it sounds like you guys have goals about what you're trying to accomplish as an organization and the legacy and the mark that you want to leave.
You can't buy culture. We're a cultural company. And you know, we pride ourselves on making sure we're cultural. We pride ourselves on making sure we represent, you know, every facet of music, rock, hip hop, pop, it doesn't matter. We want to be in that business.
Who's a leader that you look up to? Who have you modeled yourself after in certain ways?
I get a lot of education and a lot of advice from great friends. You gave me great advice. Jay has always gave me great advice. I feel like we never stop having mentors. I don't care who you are.
Sure.
But your friends become your mentors, because your friends sit there and say, nah, Jay, you're wrong. Matter of fact, I'm gonna help you. This is what let me give you my advice on this. And that advice is priceless.
What about, what else do you draw inspiration from? Whether it's like favorite movies, favorite books?
You know, I do read a lot. I read a lot about current events, what's going on. I'm just, you know, I start tapping into other, you know, since I travel so much and I'm overseas a majority of the time, I just like going over there and just kind of like tapping in different cultures and trying different foods. And if I walk into a building, I want to know how old the building is. I want to know who made it. Because we have so much data at our fingertips, you know, that you could just find out anything about anything right now. And it just seems like it's a crime not to use it.
Yeah, so tap it into that culture so you understand maybe what the vibe is, what's going to be next. Because, I mean, that's part of your job, is being a tastemaker, if you will.
Well, it's kind of like if you were playing, like if you love to play chess and you like to play, you're a chess player. Have you ever researched where that came from, where the board came from? Most people do things and they don't do any research. We don't fact check anymore.
Yeah.
The kids don't fact check. What we do is we see stuff in the media or we see stuff that comes out on certain things and we just automatically assume just because they said it's right. But maybe they could be wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, it doesn't mean that everything everyone says is right. But you have it at your fingertips to fact check and say, you know what, they're right or they're wrong. So we're thinking with our own mind.
Isn't that one of the things that that you have in your world that you said that other people want to get, is that access? You can get money, you can get fame, you can get wealth, you can get big companies, you can be in politics, but
Well, that's the culture.
that's the culture. The one thing you can't necessarily always get is access.
You can't buy culture. Because culture's never for sale. You know, you can't. But if you already have it, it doesn't really matter. You don't need it.
Keep being true.
Keep being authentic.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, Jay.
Anytime.
Pleasure.